This is a CBC News Special presentation.
Hi there, I'm Rosemary Barton. I'm Chief Political Correspondent here at CBC News, and I'm at the National Gallery in Ottawa at their most recent exhibit, Winter Count, Embracing the Cold. I sat down here with Mark Carney for a wide-ranging interview about trade, a potential pipeline, and his leadership. Here now, my conversation with the Prime Minister of Canada. Prime Minister, hello. Thank you for making the time.
Thanks for having me, Rosemary.
You were elected, I think it's fair to say, in part to deal with Donald Trump. But since the election, you have dropped retaliatory tariffs, you've given up the digital services tax, and you apologized for an ad that the Premier of Ontario ran. So I guess Canadians might want to know whether we are any further ahead for doing or not doing any of those things.
Well, we are in a lot better position than we were 9 months ago. The challenge remains that the United States has fundamentally changed its trading relationships with everybody in the world, Canada included. But one of the points I made right from the start when I was running to be leader of the Liberal Party and then running in the general election is we need to control what we can control. We can't necessarily control Donald Trump, I think everyone's figured that out, or the United States of America. What we can control is what we build here at home. You look at the progress we've made, One Canadian Economy Act. Okay, we'll go into this, but it's important to underscore because this is what's going to make the big difference for Canadians.
I get that.
Sorry, may I finish? Which is, so we're made huge progress in terms of building here at home, massive progress on new trade deals and relationships abroad. All of that puts us in a stronger position as a country, more independent, better future, stronger negotiating position with the United States.
And that's the other piece of what you were, that's the other piece that you were elected on. But you were also elected on standing up to Donald Trump and getting a deal with him. And yet, since you've been elected...
And yet we have the best deal of any country in the world,
but that's not what you were elected on. You were elected to get
Was I not elected to get the best deal of any country?
So that's
no, I would have thought...
So that's it, you're done.
Better is always possible, Rosemary. We can always do better than where we are, and we look to do better, but if you look at where we are relative to other countries, 85% of our trade, as you know, is tariff-free. We have unparalleled access relative to other countries, including Mexico, our partner in CUSMA, to the US market. Now, we're just entering the next phase of these discussions, negotiations, there'll be negotiations in the end around the review of CUSMA, which will start early in the next year.
Okay, so let me ask you what you understand Donald Trump's position on CUSMA to be right now. You had that meeting with him and President Sheinbaum not too long ago.
Yes.
At that point, did he say the deal is dead, I'm ripping it up? What indications did you get?
He did not say any of those things. What we talked about, the two presidents and myself, we talked about the process for reviewing, renegotiating CUSMA. We talked about potential timelines, although we didn't settle on specific timelines for that. The expectation is that it's going to unfold over the course of 2026. If I'm fortunate to be with you this time next year, we'll be talking about that progress. So that's the first thing. The second is I will refer back to what I just said and what I've been saying from day one. Control what we can control, what we can't. We can't necessarily control. The U.S. objectives do move around in these trade discussions, whether it's with the European Union, Japan, China, Canada. They do move around. Our discussions, my discussions with the President Trump, as have been President Sheinbaum's discussion with President Trump, has been there'll be a review and adjustment to CUSMA, USMCA as the Americans call it. Not that there will be any, as you just said,
leaving it entirely.
Leaving it entirely.
The sectoral tariffs that you seem to be close to dealing with, whether it was reducing them or getting rid of them, is that not part of the negotiation?
That will necessarily be part of the negotiation. From our perspective, those are hugely important. And look, the United States needs to make a choice around these, which is, does it recognize, appreciate that the U.S. itself is in a stronger position if there is relatively free movement of automobiles, steel, aluminum, lumber, aerospace across the U.S. border or not? And how it views its competitors. Does it view its competitors as Canada or does it view its competitors as China? And these are perspectives that the U.S. takes different views on at different points in time, and the CUSMA discussion, that review discussion, will be part of it. In the meantime, what we are going to continue to do is build this country. That's what Canadians want, and we're going to continue to deepen our trading relationships abroad. Both of those things are good in and of themselves, but both of them put us in a stronger position with the U.S. We are in a stronger position today with the United States than we were at the start of the year.
But only because, and I shouldn't diminish it, not only because, but because of what you're trying to do inside the Canadian economy, not because of anything that you've gotten from Donald Trump.
Well, we did get what we got is in August 1st is the president confirmed that 85% of trade being tariff-free, the best deal of any country with the United States. Having the best deal is pretty good, Rosie. Now, as I said a moment ago, it can be better. It's in, obviously, Canada's interest for it to be better. We will do other things at the same time. We think it's in the U.S. interest as well, but the U.S. will make that choice. It's their decision in terms of how much they want to have an integrated auto industry, which they have had for my entire life. They're taking a different path right now. We'll fight hard to change that opinion, but at the same time, we'll create new opportunities for Canadians.
You seem to get along well with the president. I wonder whether you think that matters, whether that personal relationship that you've developed is helping at all.
I'll refer back to we have the best deal. That's a starting point. I think, look, my view is that the U.S. respects strength. The president respects strength. He respects people. He
sees that in you?
Well, it's for him to answer. He wants to be a great man like me. That's what he said in public. It's kind of it's a good line. I enjoyed it at least. And you know, so being direct with him and what our objectives are and how we see it, that's important. But also he respects that the UAE wants to invest $70 billion or intends to invest $70 billion in Canada. He respects that we have launched trade negotiations with India, that we're have a rapprochement with China, that we are deepening our defense partnership with Europe, that we are increasing our defense spending, bringing it towards that 5%. Yes, he does respect those steps that we've taken. All of those steps are in Canada's interest. All of those steps are in Canada's interest, but yes, they respect that.
You talked about China there, so that is also part of, I think, your response to what is happening with the United States, as you said, India and China. This past spring, though, you said that China is Canada's biggest security threat. Does that mean that we are taking a risk by aligning ourselves further economically or otherwise because of that, because it is, in your view, our biggest security threat?
Well, a couple of points here. One is never have all your eggs in one basket. We have too many eggs in the American basket. We would like to maintain that relationship and grow others, but we absolutely need to grow others. And that the S is a capital S at the end of others. So it's India, it's China, yes, it's European Union, it's the UK, it's Thailand, it's Philippines, it's in Africa and beyond. It's Mercosur, the group of all of which we're working on. First point. The risks, and then the question is how deep is the relationship, and how clear are the guardrails around that relationship? And there are areas, artificial intelligence, critical minerals, defense, where clearly the security threats are such that we would not have a deep relationship with China in those areas. We would not have deep relationship with many countries in those areas. There's certain partners, European Union is one, UK is another, where we would. We have a strategic question for our country, how deep those relationships are in those areas with the United States, given our deep integration already with the United States and given the shifting trading relationship.
Coming up,
we need the investment now.
Yeah.
What the country, it's not about me, what the country is getting out of it is action.
More from my year-end interview with Prime Minister Mark Carney. Stephen Guilbeault resigned from your cabinet, and when he did, he was very critical. What it took to get the deal with Alberta. You had to get rid of suspend clean energy regulations. You had to get rid of or not put in place the cap on oil and gas emissions. You had to say we're willing to not use the tanker ban anymore. There are a lot of Canadians that voted for you based on your bona fides on climate change, and then they see you willing to hand all those things over. in order to get some sort of energy deal with Alberta. What do you say to them when they say, we're disappointed, this wasn't quite the person we thought he was?
I'm the same person, same values, care about the issue fundamentally, and because I care about the issue fundamentally, I care about what gets done.
Sure.
Not what is put in regulation, not what is said, not what is prohibited, and then nothing happens.
So you didn't think any of those things were going to happen?
The reality is, there is no carbon capture being built in Alberta. There has not been because of these various measures. There isn't large-scale nuclear being built in Alberta. There are no interties between a clean electricity grid in BC and Alberta, which helps breed that. The effective carbon price, sorry, may I finish?
Yes.
The effective carbon price in Alberta is only $20 a ton. So what we did with Alberta is to change all of that with the MOU.
Well, except with all due respect, you said you can have a pipeline if you do the carbon capture storage. You said we're not going to put a cap on oil and gas emissions. You have to do a large industrial emitter, and you already had a federal backstop to use to enforce that. So I'm not really sure what you're getting out of it.
We need the investment now.
Yeah.
What the country, it's not about me, what the country is getting out of it is action. The country is getting investment in clean energy, investment in nuclear, investment in carbon capture. Investment in carbon capture, most people will hear that and of course they think, well, what does that actually mean? It means the equivalent of taking 90% of the cars and trucks off the road in Alberta. These are major investments. Listen, we have too much regulation, not enough action. We're meeting on a day when the results of the previous climate plan are being released. And the fact is we're not going to meet our targets under a climate plan that had all the things in it that you said.
Yeah, but
we need to get going.
It's hard to understand how removing things, policies, that are not going to get us to the targets and potentially building another pipeline will get us there.
Rosemary, what gets us there is doing things. And saying that we won't do things and then nothing happening does not progress. That we've had that. It hasn't worked. This government is 100% focused on doing things that are going to reduce emissions.
Yeah.
We are going to grow clean energy in this country at a scale never seen before. We put in tax credits in the last budget should be worth more than $40 billion over the course of the budget just from the investment that comes from that. And we're not stopping there. We're not just putting tax credits. Sorry, I'm going to go on about this, but we're not just putting tax credits and saying, well, if we put the tax credits in, let them come. No, we spend time with the government of Newfoundland and Labrador, with Quebec, with Ontario, with Alberta, with British Columbia to get this moving because we recognize, and I think all the premiers do recognize, that we need to get moving.
And I need to keep moving. That's okay. Stephen Guilbeault also said that he really believed that this deal was in part because of your concerns around the rise of separatism in Alberta. Is that fair to say?
I think it's incredibly important, and it's part of the responsibility of the Prime Minister, whatever Prime Minister, to work with provinces, to work with Indigenous peoples, to work with Labour, to work with all Canadians for common objectives. It is important to work with Canada. Look, I recognize that part of the reason why things haven't been moving in Alberta and other parts of the country is there has been a sense of being dictated to by Ottawa. Now, Premier Smith and I don't agree about everything, but we do agree that we want to move forward. So we sat down, our team sat down, we worked this out over several months. We have a plan to move forward.
But does that not destabilize the rest of the country? Now you have British Columbia upset that they weren't consulted in advance and not in favor of what you've put on the table. And you have a real, I think, frustration in Quebec as well with where you are with your climate targets at a time when Quebec is heading towards a provincial election and the Parti Québécois is promising another referendum.
One piece of a broader puzzle. The MOU is one piece of a broader puzzle. I will point out the Prime Minister, the Premier of Quebec, as did the Premier of Ontario, as did the Premier of Nova Scotia, as did the Premier of Saskatchewan, as did the Premier of Manitoba, I can go on, all supported the MOU, all supported the MOU. The MOU creates the possibility of many things: investment in nuclear, investment in interties, investment in data centers, investment in carbon capture, yes, and a potential pipeline. Now we start those discussions with British Columbia, British Columbia, with whom we are producing the world's first, zero carbon copper mine, that we're creating a northwest corridor in British Columbia of clean energy, a conservation area the size of Greece, and unlocking the world's lowest carbon LNG in the same time, in partnership with BC. These link together, or they have the potential to link together, but these are decisions that we'll take as governments, as different parties.
Still ahead.
Do you like this job?
Do I like this job?
More of my conversation with Prime Minister Mark Carney.
When I spoke to Pierre Poilievre recently, his message to you was that if you want a majority, you have to go back to the Canadian people to get it and not do it, by his words, dirty backroom deals. Are you comfortable getting a majority by people crossing the floor?
Well, we're in a parliament, and when we pass legislation, we need more people voting for it than against it. I mean, that's the way. Last time I checked, that's the way Parliament works.
Right, but that's not what you're doing now. Now you're attracting MPs to the party.
MPs are attracted to what we're doing.
So there's no active recruitment happening?
Premiers are attracted to what we're doing.
I want to go back to what my question was, which was, are you comfortable getting a majority government through people crossing the floor?
I am comfortable commanding the confidence of the House of Commons and getting through the House of Commons, getting support in the House of Commons and votes, and obviously votes and support in the House of Commons for legislation that is going to protect Canadian communities, that's going to build this country, is going to make our country more independent, more sustainable, more prosperous.
Are there Conservative MPs you would not accept into the Liberal caucus?
Look, if people come to me, I make a judgment.
Someone who is pro-life or anti-trans, would you accept that person into your caucus?
I mean, we're in multiple hypotheticals. It's not a.
So is that a no?
It's a neither. It's a non-answer to a.
Is there an active
question.
Recruitment of MPs from other parties happening?
I think that there is a spectrum of MPs with varying degrees of recognition of the serious situation the country is in, varying degrees of recognition that we need action, not slogans, that we need cooperation with the provinces, that we need to come together and work together. Then those individuals face their own decisions about how they can best support that agenda. My job as Prime Minister, our job as the government, is to put forward our best view of that agenda. Yes, we will compromise in legislation, in committees. You've seen some of that. The border bill, there's compromise on C9, there's other adjustments that have been made in legislation. We will make adjustment for legislation to get through. But yes, if somebody sees that as Mr. D'Entremont and Mr. Ma both saw, that they can support the broad direction of the government, and they want to join the governing party, then they have and they will, and they're very much welcome.
As you said, you weren't in this space a year ago, the political arena, not formally anyway. No. You were considering things. I think that's fair to say. What has surprised you about this job? As someone who has led big organizations and done other things, what is surprising about this role?
The main thing that jumps out at me is something I knew but hadn't experienced. So in that regard, it's surprising just how real the relentless nature of the job. It's obviously 24/7, 365, and just the span of issues for which you're ultimately responsible in this role. Of course, the way to run big, complex organizations with many responsibilities is you delegate responsibility and. Are
you good at doing that?
I think I am I think I am, yes. I think there's, it's not for me to judge. There are some people who were here under previous governments, previous situations, they can judge the degree of delegation. What will come with that is that people won't always say the same thing, and that's great. That's fine. That's healthy. That's normal life. People don't all say the same thing at the same time.
But that is the challenging part of the job, is it not? That sometimes you have people who are not happy with what you're doing, openly critical of it, willing to walk away from cabinet, for instance.
Look, would I rather that, if we bring it back to Stephen Guilbeault, for whom I have tremendous respect, would I rather he had stayed in cabinet? Yes. Would I rather he had been there to see what transpires with the Alberta MOU, to see our climate strategy come out, our nature strategy come out early in the new year, both of which will happen. Yes, so he will continue to inform that, but from farther away. But I respect those decisions, and.
But if that was true, if you wanted him to stay in cabinet, why did you go about it the way you did? Because he didn't know the details.
He did. He knew the details.
So what the things that are out there that he has said are not true?
I don't know what I don't follow everything he says, but he knew what was in the MOU. And elements of the MOU were changed, consistent with his views.
So once he saw the deal, you asked him for more input and were willing to change them? Because
I did change some parts of it.
But Alberta was not happy with the changes?
No, they accepted the changes.
Okay, so then what is your understanding of what he wasn't happy with?
These are questions for him.
Well, I asked Mr. Gilbo, but what did he tell you about things then? What were you not able to give him?
We have a different approach.
Yeah.
We have a different approach. And I think what matters for Canadians, what's ultimately going to matter for the planet, for the climate, what's going to matter for affordability for Canadians, what's going to matter for the competitiveness of our businesses is, are we actually getting emissions down? Are we actually doing large-scale investment in hydroelectric power, in nuclear? Are we actually doing something which was not on the table this time last year, 50 to 60 gigawatts, which is an enormous amount of offshore wind in Nova Scotia that links in and creates whole new industries? That's what we're working on.
What is the biggest challenge ahead for 2026? Is it Donald Trump and how to deal with that, or is it something else that we haven't contemplated yet?
I think it's. I think the biggest challenge, which we're ready for, I think as a government and absolutely as a country, is not letting the U.S. situation is serious. We're going to work hard and we're going to negotiate on that. But remaining focused, focus on what we can control, focus on building here at home, and yes, finishing these trade and other discussions abroad. That's what is going to have. That will have a bigger payback over time, both of those, individually and collectively, for this country. This will put the country in a much better position over the medium term. So I'm answering it to some extent in the positive, and that's what we need to focus on.
Sure.
Partly in the negative, of course, we're going to work hard on the U.S. Negotiation, but we can't let it crowd everything else out. You quite rightly have, you don't need me to grade you, but kept a more limited part of this discussion around the U.S. Yes, it's important, but it's not everything. But it can very quickly become everything. Just like some people in the House of Commons think a pipeline is everything. It's remarkable how many questions are about a pipeline. When you think about what can be invested in hydroelectricity, what's invested, we have the potential in this country to become one of the leaders in nuclear power, particularly small modular reactors. We've started down that road. Huge payoff for the environment, huge payoff for jobs. We happen to be in Ontario, right here in Ontario and across the country. We have huge opportunities in defense, in AI, in cyber. These are areas as well. We have to be able to do more than one thing. This government is capable of doing that.
Okay, I'm out of time, but I want to ask you, do you like this job?
Do I like this job? Yes. How's that? Let's end on a high. It's an important time, and it's a privilege to have it. It's a huge responsibility, but as long as I have it, I'm going to be working flat out on it.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Happy holidays.
Thank you, you too.